Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something that touches all of our lives, that profound moment when you realize someone special is meant to be in your life. You know that feeling? That inexplicable certainty that clicks into place. There's actually deep wisdom behind this intuition, and I've spent months researching this topic, gathering insights from ancient philosophy to modern psychology that I can't wait to share with you. Before we jump in, I promise this video contains life-changing perspectives that might completely transform how you view your relationships. I've organized this carefully so each section builds on the previous one, so stick with me until the end. The most powerful insights come in the latter half, and I've included some truly profound Stoic wisdom that rarely gets discussed in videos like this. Trust me, the full journey is worth it. The illusion of perfect matches. Let's start by addressing the elephant in the room. This idea that somewhere out there is a perfect person designed specifically for you. Hollywood has sold us this narrative for decades. The soulmate concept, the idea that there's just one person who completes you. But what if I told you that the ancient Stoics had a completely different understanding of meaningful connections? One that might actually be more comforting and realistic than what we've been taught. The Roman Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." Notice he didn't say, find the one perfect person who completes you. Instead, he pointed to something much more profound, the quality of influence certain people have on our character. This perspective shifts us away from searching for perfection in others to recognizing the profound impact certain connections have on who we become. The Stoics believed that virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance were the only true goods. The people meant for us aren't perfect matches who fulfill all our desires, but those who help us grow in virtue and character. When you meet someone truly meant for you, there's a distinct feeling not of completion, but of elevation. They don't just make you happy, they make you better. There's a calm certainty in realizing this person's presence in your life serves a deeper purpose than mere compatibility. The quiet recognition. What does it actually feel like when you meet someone who's meant for you? I'm not talking about butterflies or that dizzy infatuation that comes with any new connection. I'm talking about something deeper, more substantial. Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most famous Stoic philosopher who was also Roman emperor, wrote in his Meditations, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you're with someone truly meant for you, your thoughts take on a different quality. There's a clarity, a certainty that doesn't need constant reassurance. It feels less like the dramatic passion portrayed in movies and more like coming home after a long journey. There's a sense of recognition, as if you're meeting someone you've always known. The ancient Stoics would have seen this as a rational recognition of virtue in another person, your reason recognizing something valuable and true. This recognition isn't always immediate, though. Sometimes it builds slowly as layers of pretense fall away and you begin to see each other clearly. But when it happens, there's an unmistakable quality to it, a feeling of rightness that doesn't need external validation. Many of you might be thinking about someone right now, someone who gives you that feeling of calm certainty, that recognition of value beyond just enjoyment or attraction. That feeling is worth paying attention to. The Stoic view of attachment now. You might be wondering, if the Stoics were all about self-sufficiency and not being too attached to external things, how would they view this idea of someone being meant for you? That's an excellent question. And it gets to the heart of a common misconception about Stoicism. The Stoics weren't against connections or relationships. They were against unhealthy dependency and placing your happiness entirely in someone else's hands. Seneca, another prominent Stoic philosopher, wrote, "The wise person needs hands and eyes and many things necessary for daily life. But he is in need of nothing. Need represents lack, but nothing is lacking in the wise person. In other words, the Stoics didn't believe we should need others to be complete, but they deeply valued worthy friendships and relationships. The key distinction is that when someone is truly meant for you, the relationship doesn't come from lack or desperation or need, but from mutual growth and virtue. When you meet someone meant for you, there's a particular quality to the connection. You don't feel anxious about losing them because your well-being isn't dependent on them staying. There's a freedom in the relationship. You choose each other continuously rather than clinging out of fear or need. The Stoics would say this is the healthiest kind of connection, one based on virtue and mutual respect, rather than using each other to fill emotional voids. And interestingly, these relationships often feel the most meant to be, precisely because they're not built on that desperate need to complete yourself through another person. False signals versus true recognition. Let's talk about how to distinguish between the person who's truly meant for you and those connections that just mimic the feeling. We've all experienced it, meeting someone who seems perfect initially. The chemistry is off the charts, you have so much in common, everything feels magical, but then, a few months in, the connection starts to unravel. Was this not meant to be after all? The Stoics would approach this with their characteristic emphasis on reason over emotion. Epictetus advised, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. In relationships, what's in our power is our judgment, our ability to look past initial excitement and evaluate the substance of a connection. The Stoics practiced prososche, or attention, which means being fully present and observant without being carried away by first impressions. So what are the false signals that can mislead us? First, there's projection, seeing what we want to see in someone rather than who they truly are. Then there's familiarity. Sometimes we're attracted to people who recreate familiar dynamics from our past, even unhealthy ones. And of course, there's physical chemistry, which can create a powerful illusion of deeper connection. By contrast, true recognition often has these qualities: a sense of ease rather than anxiety, growth rather than stagnation, and most importantly, seeing someone clearly and appreciating them for who they truly are, not who you want them to be. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. When someone is truly meant for you, your estimate of them becomes more accurate over time, not less. You see their flaws and complexities, and your appreciation deepens rather than diminishes. The role of virtue in recognition. The Stoics had a unique perspective on human connections that can help us understand this feeling of recognition. They believed that humans naturally recognize virtue in others. It's as if we have an innate compass that points us toward what is good and true. Hierocles, a Stoic philosopher from the 2nd century, developed the concept of circles of concern, the idea that we naturally care about ourselves first, then our immediate family, then friends, then fellow citizens, and so on. But he argued that the goal of philosophical progress was to draw those outer circles closer to the center, to care for strangers as we care for family. What's fascinating is that when we meet someone truly meant for us, it often feels like they immediately jump several circles inward. There's an instant recognition, a feeling that this person already belongs in your inner circles of concern. This isn't random or mystical. The Stoics would say it's because you're recognizing virtue in them, qualities like wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance that naturally draw us closer. Musonius Rufus, another Stoic philosopher and the teacher of Epictetus, said, "We are born by nature to love not only ourselves, but other human beings as well. This natural affinity for others, especially those who display virtue, may be what we're experiencing when we feel that someone is meant for us. It's worth pausing here and really thinking about the people in your life who've given you this feeling. Was it their external qualities that drew you in, or something deeper about their character, their values, their way of moving through the world? The tranquility test. The Stoics prize tranquility of mind, not as passive contentment, but as a dynamic state of being undisturbed by external events while still engaging fully with life. This concept gives us another way to recognize when someone is meant for us. Simply put, do they bring tranquility to your life, or do they disrupt it? I don't mean surface-level peace where nothing challenging ever happens. The Stoics weren't advocating for an easy life without difficulties. I'm talking about a deeper sense of rightness and calm, even in the midst of life's inevitable challenges. When you're with someone meant for you, there's a background sense of security that persists. Even during arguments or difficult times, you know that the foundation is solid, that you're moving through challenges together rather than being torn apart by them. Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future." With the right person, you find yourself more able to be present, less concerned with where things are going, more able to trust the process of growing together. This doesn't mean the relationship is always easy. The tranquility test isn't about avoiding conflict or challenge. It's about whether, on balance, this person's presence in your life contributes to your overall peace of mind or detracts from it. A person meant for you might challenge you, might even frustrate you at times, but the overall effect of their presence in your life is greater tranquility, not less. There's a profound difference between the stimulating challenge of healthy growth and the draining chaos of a poor match. I want you to stay with me here, because we're about to dive into some truly transformative aspects of recognizing your meaningful connections that few people ever discuss. The shared direction. One of the most overlooked aspects of recognizing when someone is meant for you is shared direction. Not just compatibility in the present, but alignment in where you're both headed. The Stoics viewed life as a continuous journey toward virtue. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about your neighbors, but ask yourself, what am I myself doing at this moment that deserves praise or blame?" While this might sound like a call to ignore others and focus on yourself, the Stoics actually believed that our journey toward virtue is supported by those around us. We need mirrors to see ourselves clearly. We need companions on the path. When someone is truly meant for you, there's an alignment not just in who you both are now, but in who you're becoming. You're moving in complementary directions, supporting each other's growth rather than hindering it. This doesn't mean you need identical goals or interests. It means your deeper values and direction are harmonious. You might pursue different careers or hobbies, but you're rowing the same boat, so to speak. The feeling is one of mutual progress. You both feel that you're becoming better versions of yourselves through the relationship. There's a sense that together you can go further than either of you could alone, not because you need each other to be complete, but because your strengths and weaknesses are complementary. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." When someone is meant for you, they support who you're trying to become, not just who you are today. The freedom paradox. Here's something counterintuitive. One of the surest signs someone is meant for you is that you feel completely free with them. The Stoics emphasize the importance of freedom, not just physical freedom, but freedom from being controlled by desires, fears, and attachments. True freedom to them was the ability to choose virtue regardless of circumstances. In relationships, this translates to a fascinating paradox. The people most meant for us are often those with whom we feel most free to be ourselves, to make our own choices, and even to leave if necessary. Epictetus, who was born a slave and later gained his freedom, understood the value of liberty better than most. He wrote, "No person is free who is not master of themselves." In relationships, this means maintaining your autonomy while choosing connection. When someone is truly meant for you, there's no sense of being trapped or controlled. Instead, there's a continuous choice to be together, a renewed commitment that comes from freedom rather than obligation. This creates a beautiful cycle. The freedom makes you want to stay, and staying never feels like giving up your freedom. You choose each other every day, not because you have to, but because you genuinely want to. This might seem counterintuitive in a culture that often romanticizes possessiveness or the idea that you complete me. But the Stoics would argue that the healthiest connections, the ones truly meant to be, don't restrict your freedom, they enhance it. The rational emotion now. We come to perhaps the most profound Stoic insight about recognizing when someone is meant for you, the concept of rational emotion. Many people mistakenly believe that Stoicism advocates suppressing all emotions. In reality, the Stoics distinguished between irrational emotions, passions, and rational emotions, eupatheiai. They didn't want to eliminate feelings, but to ensure our feelings were aligned with reason and truth. When you meet someone truly meant for you, what you feel isn't just passion or attraction. It's a rational emotion, a feeling grounded in a clear understanding of reality and true value. Cicero, who wrote extensively about Stoicism, explained that joy, as opposed to pleasure, was a rational emotion, arising from a correct assessment of something truly good. Similarly, caution, as opposed to fear, was a rational response to genuine risks. This gives us a powerful framework for understanding that feeling of recognition. When someone is meant for you, your emotional response to them is rational, based on a true assessment of their character and the genuine value they bring to your life. It's not the fleeting pleasure of good looks or charm or novelty. It's the deeper joy of recognizing virtue in another person. It's not the fear of being alone or the anxiety of missing out. It's the reasonable caution about committing to someone without truly knowing them. This is why the feeling of someone being meant for you often grows stronger over time rather than diminishing. It's based on increasingly accurate knowledge of who they truly are, not on fantasy or projection. As Marcus Aurelius advised, if you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. When someone is truly meant for you, your judgment about them becomes more positive over time, not less, because it's aligned with reality. The test of adversity. The Stoics believed that adversity reveals character, both in ourselves and in others. Seneca famously said, "Fire is the test of gold, adversity of strong men." In relationships, this gives us perhaps the most reliable way to recognize when someone is meant for you. How do you face challenges together? It's easy to get along when everything is going well. True compatibility, true meaning in a connection shows itself when things get difficult. When you lose a job, face a health crisis, or simply go through the inevitable ups and downs of life, does the relationship strengthen or fracture? Someone truly meant for you doesn't just share your joys. They help you bear your sorrows. They don't just celebrate your successes, they stand by you in failure. And most importantly, adversity reveals not just their commitment to you, but the fundamental compatibility of your values and approaches to life. Do you solve problems together or turn against each other? Do challenges bring you closer or drive you apart? Does hardship reveal shared strength or expose fundamental incompatibility? Epictetus taught that we should love people not for their external qualities that can change, but for their character and choices. I must die. If immediately, then I'll die immediately. If in a short time, I'll dine first, since the hour for dining is here, and then die. How? as becomes one who gives back what is not his own. When someone is truly meant for you, there's a sense that you would face whatever comes, even death itself, with dignity and courage, supported by each other's strength of character. Beyond romantic connections, it's important to note that this feeling of recognition, this sense that someone is meant for you, isn't limited to romantic relationships. The Stoics placed enormous value on friendship, seeing it as one of life's most important goods, though still secondary to virtue itself. Seneca wrote extensively about friendship, saying, "One of the most beautiful qualities of true friendship is to understand and to be understood. This mutual understanding is at the heart of recognizing when someone, friend, mentor, family member, is meant to be in your life. The principles we've discussed apply to all meaningful human connections. That sense of recognition, of ease, of shared direction and rational emotion, these can characterize our most important friendships just as much as our romantic partnerships." In fact, the Stoics might argue that friendship, being free from the complications of romantic passion, can sometimes more purely embody the ideal of a connection based on mutual virtue and growth. Whether romantic or platonic, when someone is meant for you, there's a sense that this person has entered your life for a reason, not in some mystical sense of fate, but in the practical sense that your connection serves your mutual development as human beings. The practice of recognition. So how do we cultivate this ability to recognize when someone is meant for us? The Stoics would suggest a few practices. First, know yourself. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you will ever dig." Understanding your own values, virtues, and direction in life makes it much easier to recognize when someone aligns with them. Second, practice careful judgment. The Stoics believed in withholding final judgment until you had adequate evidence. Initial attraction or interest is just the beginning. True recognition comes from observing someone's character over time and in various circumstances. Third, maintain your independence. Paradoxically, you're better able to recognize who's truly meant for you when you're not desperately seeking someone to complete you. As Epictetus said, "Freedom is not procured by a full enjoyment of what is desired, but by controlling the desire." Finally, focus on virtue, both in yourself and others. The Stoics believed that virtue is the only true good. When you orient your life around developing wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice, you naturally attract and recognize others doing the same. Conclusion. The quieter knowing. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this final thought. When someone is truly meant for you, the knowing isn't usually a dramatic lightning bolt. It's quieter, deeper, more certain. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." The recognition that someone is meant for you isn't about some unchangeable fate or destiny. It's about recognizing, through clear thought and careful attention, the profound value this person brings to your life. It's about seeing them clearly, knowing yourself truly, and understanding that together you help each other become better humans. It's about finding someone who aligns with your deepest values, who supports your growth, who brings tranquility rather than chaos. The ancient Stoics, with their emphasis on virtue, reason, and living according to nature, offer us a framework for relationships that goes far beyond the superficial matching of interests or the temporary excitement of new romance. They point us toward connections based on character, virtue, and mutual growth. When someone is meant for you, you'll know, not through mystical signs or overwhelming passion, but through the quiet certainty that comes from truly seeing another person and recognizing the value they bring to your life. I hope this perspective has given you something meaningful to reflect on. If you found value in these ideas, please consider sharing this video with someone who might benefit from it. Let me know in the comments about your experiences with recognizing meaningful connections in your life. Remember, as Seneca wisely noted, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Prepare yourself by developing virtue and wisdom, and you'll be ready to recognize those special people when they enter your life. Thanks for staying with me through this exploration. Until next time.